Hello, everyone. This morning, I'm finishing up my time at Florida Pagan Gathering upstate near Silver Springs. And since I can't be here with you until later on this evening, Tom asked me to record a presentation on earth-based spirituality for you. Much of this presentation has been adapted from a sermon given by retired Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Carolyn R. Brown. And she served the first UU Church of Wichita, Kansas from 2000 to 2006. When St. Patrick first came to Ireland in the 5th century, he encountered the Celts, a unique race of people with their own flourishing spiritual tradition already thousands of years old. Whereas the Christians worshipped one God, the Celtic people honored many. They experienced divinity everywhere, in the waterways and hills, the soil and sky, in home and village, and within their own souls. This Celtic reverence for the spirit in all things survives to this day, a vibrant legacy unique in the Western world, the undergirding reference of our own Unitarian Universalist commitment to earth-based spirituality. The Celtic imagination embraced nature, divinity, the underworld, and human existence as equal partners in one interconnected whole. Thus, animals are seen as our ancient brothers and sisters. Wells are sacred spaces. Rivers and streams are the tears of earth's joy and despair. Ruins house the essence of our ancestors. The earth is a tangible expression of soul. The Celts taught that everything is to be treated with dignity and respect. We are summoned to bless all we see, so writes the Reverend Tom Owen Toole. Today, some of us might think of Native American religions as the most mainstream form of earth-based spirituality. Or perhaps some of you are more familiar with what is called paganism. It's very likely that some here might know West African traditions such as Santeria or Voodoo, or maybe the Shinto religion of the East, all of which are bound up in earth-based beliefs. Still others may think of the Druidic teachings from the ancient Celts, or of the Nordic religions of the Scandinavian region, or of the Mayan structures and systems of belief in the Americas. Regardless of how ancient or modern an earth-based religion is, regardless of whether it is found in African, Asian, American, European, Caribbean, or some other culture, all who would label themselves as believers in and worshipers of the natural tides and forces of nature would find resonance with this prayer from the Ute people of North America. Earth, teach me stillness, as the grasses are stilled with light. Earth, teach me courage, as the tree which stands all alone. Earth, teach me resignation, as the leaves which die in the fall. Earth, teach me regeneration, as the seed which rises in the spring. Earth, teach me to forget myself, as melted snow forgets its life. Earth, teach me to remember kindness, as dry fields weep with rain. At the Unitarian Universalist Association General Assembly in 1995, the 6th source of our principles and purposes was adopted. It states, "We Unitarian Universalists partake in a living tradition that draws from many sources, including spiritual teachings of earth-centered traditions which celebrate the sacred circle of life and instruct us to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature." This action did not take place without a struggle. It was controversial, in part because most Unitarian Universalists don't make the connection between earth-centered religions and the writings of the Unitarians of the mid-19th century, the so-called Transcendentalists, Henry David Thoreau, Margaret Fuller, Ralph Waldo Emerson. Further, Unitarian Universalists are sensitive to the common assumptions made by the American public, whose prejudices concerning earth-centered traditions and spirituality are negative and lack understanding. When one mentions pagan or witch or even Native American religions, there's often no response, because for the most part, Unitarian Universalists don't know what to do with these experientially based faith practices or their practitioners. There is a certain irony in this because the teachings of earth-centered religions offer a moral and ethical way of life that could be instrumental in helping modern humans to preserve our planet and to live together in cooperative community. We might also gain more positive ideas for ourselves if we authentically lived out our belief that the earth is our home. UU Pagan and NPR reporter Margot Adler suggested that paganism is a religious tradition that is similar to a poem or a work of art, since the worshiping of and with the natural world is, as Adler put it, a religious practice based on myth and metaphor rather than literal understanding. The Unitarian Universalist non-pagan prejudice is that acceptable knowledge is found in books and can be proven by empirical evidence, except, of course, for those things that we can only know by their effects, such as wind, gravity, electricity, and other forms of energy. Yet the old-time religions, often called primitive religions, evolved thousands of years before any of the text-based religions. Earth-centered traditions are as old as humanity itself, and traces have been found among Neolithic artifacts dating back 20,000 years. These religions accumulated knowledge that was passed on to generations of shamans, leaders, practitioners, knowledge of healing, of construction, of agronomy, of weather, of plants and their properties. As modern people, we prefer knowledge that we can back up with an authority. The folk lore that helped us survive until the 20th century is now mostly ignored. Our prejudice is for knowledge that is found in books rather than in practice. We base our preference on our conviction that myth and metaphor are less convincing than literal knowledge. Yet all religious texts and scriptures are myth and metaphor, with very little accuracy of facts or dates. Our society seems to insist on making a distinction between religions based on writings as opposed to earth-centered traditions based on direct experience. And why is that? Our prejudice for literal knowledge seems to be the cause of many contemporary Unitarians, Universalists' nervous tics or embarrassment about honoring earth-based traditions. No matter what comes to our mind when we think of earth-based spirituality, no matter how knowledgeable or ignorant we are about the rich histories of these religious expressions, no matter whether or not we find it amazing that these traditions have been part of virtually every culture the world has known, Unitarian Universalists have a particular responsibility to acknowledge and honor the importance of these earth-based religions. Earth-centered religions almost always share several themes. First, they find strength and wholeness by honoring the rhythms of nature and finding balance in this process. The seasons of the year bring different gifts and challenges and drive us onward, as the ever-turning seasons are often referred to as the wheel of the year. The modern-day wheel of the year was first suggested by the scholar and mythologist Jacob Grimm in his 1835 work, Teutonic Mythology, and it was fixed in its present form in the 1950s and early 1960s by the Wicca movement. In earth-based spirituality, the winter is a time of rest and dormancy. All of life needs to rest and to have time to plant seeds of new hope. Spring is the time when warmth begins to rise, beauty and fragrance reign, and new life emerges. It is the time to tend the garden, both of the earth and of the soul. Summer brings the greatest light and warmth, time to enjoy and celebrate the living world and the forthcoming harvest. Autumn is the time of the harvest, reaping the rewards of the year and giving thanks for the food of the earth and of the soul, preparing once again for the death of the year and the time of rest. Those who honor all life also consider the movements of the moon and the planets and other celestial bodies as well. Earth-centered traditions acknowledge and revere the elements of nature, often identified as earth, air, fire, and water, and sometimes connected with the 4 cardinal directions. Everything in the natural world, everything that we perceive, is comprised of the elements of nature and lives within the cycles of nature. Chief Seattle wrote the following about 150 years or so ago. This we know, the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. This we know, all things are connected like the blood which unites one family. Our 7th principle reflects this in the words, we affirm the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. Another theme of earth-centered religions is that no distinction is made between the so-called secular and the sacred, between the cultural and the spiritual. We humans are spiritual beings, living our days among other spirit-filled beings. We live in partnership with each other. And thus, we live out our religious beliefs in all that we do. One's religion isn't out there to be figured out. It's in here to be felt and lived. Earth religions are experiential in nature. Connected to this belief by most adherents of earth-centered religions that all of nature is alive and imbued with spiritual energy, we feel there is no difference between the material world and the spiritual world, between human life and plant or animal life. Rather than divide experiences into good and bad, most earth-centered traditions define duality as the state, character, or quality of being two or comprised of two. We see each as having challenging and beneficent characteristics, rather than seeing evil as existing as something separate. Many, although by no means all, earth-centered practitioners have moved away from a binary understanding of nature, embracing a non-binary structure that acknowledges and honors that nature is not simply either or, but also both and. That said, earth-based spirituality does place a strong emphasis on female deities or archetypes. Scholar Riane Eisler, author of The Chalice and the Blade, has written extensively on the image of the female in ancient religions. She writes that early peoples tried to calibrate the cycles and the seasons and put into physical form and ritual what they had learned. They came to venerate the life-giving powers of the universe and developed an association of the earth with the image of women as givers and sustainers of life. Eisler's research indicates that early believers, or primary religions, linked the body of the earth to the mystery of the human body of a woman. Our early ancestors recognized that we and our natural environment are integrally linked parts of the great mystery of life and death, and that all nature must therefore be treated with respect. Characterizing our planet as Mother Earth makes sense to many. We humans are inextricably tied to Earth's health and well-being. We can't talk about Earth-centered traditions without talking about the rituals and mystery of many of these spiritual paths. This is an aspect that probably needs the most information, yet this information is not forthcoming in a style that Unitarian Universalists easily accept or understand. Many shops sell the paraphernalia of magic with a K, including tarot cards, runes, crystal balls, I Ching coins, spell books, and a lot more. Those of us who choose to dismiss such things as supernatural or hocus pocus probably do so on the basis of assuming that the users of these items invest them with some kind of power. But these are simply items used to focus the practitioner's power, a potential power that is present in all of us, were we to take the time to access and develop our intuition, our wisdom, and our intention. Some pagans use rituals and readings to access their unconscious, to direct themselves to fuller appreciation of their personal strengths and their identities. In Native American religions, there is the shaman, the healer, the one who knows the medicines of the tribe. The dances of the tribes in New Mexico correspond with the wheel of the seasons. Community, worship, ritual, and expression of the connections with all that exists are represented by these sometimes hypnotic dances in ritual clothing that has been fashioned by each dancer throughout the year. And what of the pagan rituals and the Native American dances? What is the importance of these expressions of earth-centered religions? What dances and rituals do non-pagans perform in their lives? It's very likely that you do something at some point in your day that if you don't do it, you then feel a little off for the rest of your day. It could be an affirmation you have a habit of telling yourself when you first wake up. It could be a certain routine around your first cup of your favorite morning beverage. And perhaps there's something you say or do before making a big presentation or putting in for a new job, something that might bring you a little luck. Or perhaps it's something as common as blowing out the candles on your birthday cake and making a wish. Or maybe you've had a time when you've been fully immersed in the glory of a sunrise over the ocean, or spellbound by the vibrant palette of the sunset, or enthralled in the midst of an ancient stand of trees. In these moments, the disappointments and failures of life seem totally absent. You experience the goodness of the planet and experience yourself as being an integral part of the rhythms of the whole of life. Earth-centered religions do not doom us to an unending battle with our natural selves in order to become acceptable or saved from judgment. We are all right, just as we are. The themes of earth-centered traditions may include seeing the earth as a living organism, a mother usually, with whom we have a relationship. This relationship links us inextricably not only to our planet, but also to all the natural world surrounding us. Earth-centered practitioners often feel their lives are not divided into segments, the spiritual on one side, and the material on the other. The sacred is everywhere, in everything, all the time. May we celebrate the goodness of physical life and our connection with all of nature. May we seek to live in harmony with who we are and with the earth on which we live. So may it be.